Hi everybody, this is Brian David Marshall bringing you a live deck tech here from Pro Tour Avacyn Restored in Barcelona, Spain. I am here with Pro Tour Amsterdam champion Paul Rietzl, and you know, would it be a surprise to you to find out that Paul Rietzl is playing a combo deck in Block Constructed? Here's the combo right here. Mountain, Stromkirk Noble.
Yep.
In a room full of people playing humans, Stromkirk Noble is quite good.
Yes.
Yeah, to the surprise of no one, you're playing a red-white aggro deck. Tell us how you decided to choose this deck. You were working with Star City Black.
Star City Black. Really, I picked red and white in honor of the great English magic resurgence. I wanted to honor their flag. I worked with the Star City Black team, and I didn't have a chance to do as much testing as I normally would.
You were, by all Twitter accounts, early this week, not coming to the event.
Not coming as of probably 10 days ago, yeah, and I just decided. Was convinced by my girlfriend to come. You know, the thoughts.
That is a good woman.
Experience. Yes.
That is a good woman.
Yeah. Showed up really without a deck, but saw of all things Finkel and Kai both playing separate people, each with Boros. And I asked them, why they were testing Boros, because it doesn't seem to be in their character, and they both said that they thought it was the best choice for the tournament. This was probably pretty early on Wednesday, or early on Thursday actually. At that point, I stopped listening to any other advice. If Kai and Finkel are on a red-white aggro deck, that's enough for me.
Even if it's for like 5 minutes that they think it's the best deck, you're in.
It could have been for 5. They could have been lying to me, and that would have been enough to get me into the deck. Yeah.
That's awesome. So there was a lot of people talking, your teammates talking about that impact of watching Kai and John playtesting.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. Well, the joke that I made yesterday is that both John and Kai were really excited to come to the tournament and meet the second best player in Magic history. So, no, they were good. They treat testing, very seriously. Every turn of every game, they're trying to get edge against each other and make sure that they play tight. They really focus during the game, so they're trying to get the most out of every game that they can.
Yeah. So let's get into the deck itself.
Okay.
So it's Boros. Start off with Stromkirk Noble.
Yeah.
One single mana, 1/1. What makes this card so good?
I mean, you're looking at a format where a lot of the really powerful things that people are doing, their early drops are all humans, whether it's Avacyn's Pilgrim, or Champion of the Parish, or Gather the Townsfolk, Loyal Cathar.
Speaking of which, is also for Champion of the Parish.
Right. So both the Stromkirk Noble and the Champion of the Parish allow you to get off to really aggressive starts, and as we've seen before, the red-white aggro decks, a good one-drop that provides you a good rate in terms of power and damage quickly to get out early is very critical. I'd love to have even more. These just happen to be the 2 best drops available, and you really need to have one of the 2 of them to get your game plan started early.
So you follow up. You can follow up Champion of the Parish with Cloistered Youth. You have 3 of them.
Yes.
This is a card I wasn't expecting to see coming into the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, Cloistered Youth is both a human, so you're going to make Champion of the Parish bigger, but it also provides a reasonable rate. It's what will turn into a 3/3 for 2, so that the damage will come pretty quickly. I mean, it's not an overpowered card. It actually frequently gets sideboarded out, but it's an important part of the curve.
You have a singleton Lightning Mauler also in the 2 slot, sort of bringing that up to 4 actual 2-drop creatures.
Yeah, I mean, the downside of Lightning Mauler is usually going to be 2 mana, 2/1 haste, which is not that bad of a rate. But when you combine it with some of the more expensive things in the deck, whether it's Mikaeus or Silverblade Paladin, or even just the Champion of the Parish, especially after maybe they play a sorcery speed mass removal effect, you can surprise them with quite a bit of damage.
Right, you go Champion of the Parish, Lightning Mauler,
right.
You're getting in for 4 that
4
turn.
on turn 2.
Yeah. Gather the Townsfolk, also a 2-drop.
Yeah.
Makes 2 humans, gets you to a 3/3 Champion of the Parish attacking on turn 2.
Right.
And things get disgusting.
Yeah.
On turn 3 with this deck.
Yeah. Turn 3 is where things really pick up. Your ideal turn 3 play a lot of the time is going to be Silverblade Paladin, one of the new cards from Avacyn Restored. If you have ideally your champion or your noble out, and you've grown it on turn 2 either by attacking or playing another human. Now you're playing the Silverblade Paladin, and if you have the champion, you're growing it because it's a human, and usually getting in for something like 6 double strike damage. And if you attack with a Stromkirk Noble, you get in once, grow it, get in again, grow it again.
So it becomes almost like the card from the last set, the the blade.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of damage very, very quickly and at a pretty reasonable price. If you don't have the Silverblade Paladin, your other proactive plays are Midnight Haunting, which again combos really well with both Hellrider and Mikaeus. It's also instant speed, so it can help prevent their Hunt Master from flipping. It's a way that we can respond again to sorcery speed, mass removal by playing another end step and then having creatures to attack. We also, on turn 3, we turn on our removal suite, which is Fiend Hunter and Brimstone Volley.
So Fiend Hunter, this guy comes down, he's a human, he removes a creature.
Right.
Bumps up your champion of the
Bumps up
parish.
your champion of the
So
parish.
clear the path, get in for 3, get in
Right.
for 4, depending on what turn it is.
Especially with all the Wolfear Silverhearts out, 3 is the minimum amount of Fiend Hunters. I'd love to have 4, but the slots are very tight in a deck like this.
You also have 3 Brimstone Volley.
Right.
This seems like a fine card.
Yeah, the thing with any kind of deck like this, a Boros deck, is there's a tension between repetitive sources of damage and your reach, your finishers. And so you don't want to cut too many of your repetitive sources of damage, your creatures, in order to play something like a Brimstone Volley, because you're going to end up short on your curve at some point. But as a 3 of, it packs a lot of punch. You have no problem turning on Morbid at any point, and it's
just
a good
attack into their
Yeah,
guys.
you just attack. I mean, we're making tokens, so no problem.
Hellrider, this card seems fantastic. A card we've seen mostly in red-green decks and red-white decks.
Yeah,
and black.
at some point yesterday, Kai called it the best card in the format. He actually thought it was the best card in the format. In 2-set, before Avacyn Restored, the single most powerful thing you could be doing after the banning of Lingering Souls was end of turn Midnight Haunting, turn 4 Hellrider.
Sure, you've got an empty board, 4 mana. You play Midnight Haunting, you untap, you play Hellrider, you're getting in for, what is that, 8 damage?
Right, exactly.
Out of nowhere.
Exactly. Hellrider is just, Telroom Minotaur has come a long way. Now, right? You got a lot in that little package. It's great with the Gather. It's great with Midnight Haunting. If a Silverblade Paladin happens to be all on his lonesome, it's fine. You can attack for 9.
Sure.
Sorry, for way more than
1,000,000.
9 to 12. Right?
1,000,000, yeah.
It's a little bit tough on the mana, but it's so powerful that it's worth it.
Right. The last card to talk about in the main deck is Mikaeus, the Lunarch.
Yeah.
This guy, so your curve kind of tops out at 4. How much do you play him for normally?
That's the great part about him. We started with 1 or 2 Mikaeuses and quickly moved it to 3 because he fills whatever spot in the curve you need it to be. We're a little light on 2-drops, so frequently he's a 2-drop, and then frequently he's a 4-drop. In other games on turn 5, you're playing a 3-drop and you're playing Mikaeus to double pump a champion or with a Silverblade Paladin. And he also provides the ability in a deck with a lot of cheap spells to be a mana sink late in the game if you get flooded.
Right, and it's not a card where you really want him to be sitting on the board for a lot of turns.
No.
You're pretty happy getting 1 or 2 activations out of him
Absolutely.
and letting him die.
Absolutely, but there are other matchups where they can't remove a lot of your spells, like say a green-white deck where you're just ticking him up, ticking him down, ticking him up, ticking him down, and just grinding them out. So, you do win some games where you're Fateful Houring Gather or just making gigantic spirit tokens.
Right. So now you alluded a little bit to the mana when we were talking about Hellrider. So you have a turn 1 champion that you want to play.
Yeah.
You have a turn 1 Stromkirk Noble that you want to play. You really want to have 2 red on turn 4.
Yeah.
For your Hellrider, how do you balance the land in this deck? We start off with 9 planes.
Yeah.
That seems pretty obvious.
Right.
How do you get the red right?
Well, I just make sure every game to draw 2 plains and 2 mountains. So you have, because you're playing a not an ally colored deck, you do have the benefit of having one of the dual lands, which makes things a lot better. If you have a basic land and a dual land, you're very infrequently going to get.
So we get
mana
Clifftop
problems.
Retreat.
Yeah. And then, of course, one of the all-stars in this deck is what I call the badly overworked or overstressed Cavern of Souls. It names all of the creature types in the deck: human, vampire, and devil. Whatever you need at the time to cast whatever you can.
Sure.
And it really acts as like Clifftop Retreats 5 through 8 a lot of the time. You played more if you could.
And will you name Vampire on turn 1 and get the Noble down?
I have named Vampire on turn 1. Yeah, I mean it's risky if you don't have planes in your hand, but you need to get the Noble down early, and this allows you to play enough planes or enough white and red mana to be comfortable casting each of them on turn 1.
Right. So you end up with
7 mountains.
7 mountains, 9 planes.
Right. So you
4
have 11
retreats.
Right.
And then 4 caverns.
24 total land. It's not a lot of land, so you're infrequently going to get mana flooded. When you do, you have Mikaeus as a sink. But the games don't go that long. You have Burn, you have Hellrider, and potentially very aggressive starts backed up by Silverblade Paladin. So if the game's going 10 turns, you're probably losing anyway.
You're 3-1 so far.
Yes.
Through 4 rounds in the tournament. Tell us a little bit about the matchups you've seen so far.
In the first round, I played against Willie Edel, playing almost a mirror matchup. He had Loyal Cathar, where I think I had Cloistered Youth, and that gave me a little bit of an advantage. He also naturally drew his Bonfires of the Dam, which I don't have. When you draw that card naturally, it tends to provide a pretty poor rate, so I was able to get kind of more streamlined draws.
Sure.
Round 2 and 3, I played against Naya decks, which should be a pretty tough matchup for me. But in that matchup, Fiend Hunter is my most important card because they're just playing gigantic green monsters that I can't deal with. If you can play a Fiend Hunter and they can't kill it, and you get their biggest monster and they don't have any backup, I mean, you have an aggressive start, so sometimes you just get there. This last round I played against Jund, which is like, it's like Naya, but it's less focused on humans, so the Stromkirk Nobles aren't as effective early in the game, and they have more cheap removal backed up by Sever the Bloodline. It's kind of the nightmare. It's like the worst conceivable matchup. I have to hope that they get mana problems. My opponent didn't, so I lost.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your sideboard. Slayers Stronghold, this is a card I think a lot of people were expecting to be a staple card for this deck in the main deck.
Right.
Why do you have one in the sideboard for?
The issue is I can't fit another land in the main deck. I can't play a 25th land. It's too risky to get flooded, and the colored mana requirements are too stressed already. It's a great weapon against control decks where you don't want to overcommit to the board, or you want to respond to a wrath effect by playing a creature and then giving it haste.
Sure.
But it just doesn't do enough to mess up the colored mana.
One Grafdigger's Cage.
Kind of the Miser's Cage, against Self-Mill or Reanimator.
Sure, also Purify the Grave, I assume a lot of the same decks.
Yeah, and you don't want to draw two of them. In an aggressive deck, you don't want to dilute your aggressive starts too badly with reactive cards.
Sure. Nevermore.
Yeah.
One Nevermore?
An anti-control piece, usually it's going to name Terminus or Blasphemous Act. This deck is particularly soft to mass removal, even with some of the already built-in responses, but to be able to get a Nevermore down and stop Terminus against a deck where that's their main playing against you is very good.
Riders of Gavony, this is a card we've certainly seen in a number of the aggressive decks.
Yeah, it's mirror tech. It's really, really good in the Boros mirror. As you can see, my deck is very heavily based on humans, so if you play that on turn 4, especially with a Silverblade Paladin, you're often dealing a lot of damage.
Where are you bringing in Angelic Overseers?
Probably
These cards seem... This card seems awesome in the right matchup.
It's a mirror matchup card. It's also pretty good against green decks. It's been a little disappointing so far. I just don't have enough lands.
Sure. A fourth copy of Brimstone Volley, 2 copies of Pillar of Flame.
All anti-creature measures.
Sure.
You don't want to overload.
Slayer of the Wicked, pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
4th Fiend Hunter.
Anti-creatures.
Zealous Conscripts.
Anti-Gisela.
And then finally, tell us about Smite the Monstrous.
Smite the Monstrous was my laying in bed last night looking through my big cardboard box tech against, I heard Wolfear Silverhearts sold out, that people couldn't get them. And that's pretty much the best answer. It's a definite answer. It's an instant speed, and it can kind of surprise people who think that their Silverhearts are invulnerable. So
one of the things we always talk about when we talk about block constructed is how this will sort of morph into standard. Right. Is this something you could see yourself playing in standard once the format rotates come this fall?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the Champion of the Parish itself is such a powerful card and creates such really strong openings, as you've seen in like the white-blue humans deck, that a lot of the core of this deck, especially Silverblade Paladin, is going to translate very well to standard. It may be that a white-blue deck is more effective in standard because you have the dual lands available there to make the mana work, but really in block you need to have the non-allied colored duels, enemy duels.
Sure.
But I could easily see a Champion of the Parish Silverblade Paladin deck being very good in standard.
Okay, well there you have it from Paul Rietzl, the man who knows a thing or three about Boros. This is something you definitely want to try in block constructed. It's served him well so far, and you might want to think about it for standard. For Paul Rietzl, this is Brian David Marshall signing off from the deck desk here at the Tournament Center.